So I think we can begin this portion of our morning together. And this is the time for public testimony about this bill. So we're going to hear from a lineup of wonderful people, and then I will open it up for more people to speak if you feel moved to do so. So we're going to begin with Ben Clark, who is a school board member for Harwood Union Unified School District, and a special educator at Tuttle Middle School in South Burlington. Both are fully phone-free. And I'm Robin Yunker. Sorry, I forgot to introduce myself. And I'm a mother of 3 boys, but I'm also doing this for the girls that I never had. I'm also a pastor at the Thetford Hill Church in Thetford, Vermont, and really happy to be here. And one thing I want to say out of the gate is that when we in our movement say phone-free school, we mean bell to bell. So it isn't, you can have a cell phone, because many schools have policies, cell phone policies. Most of them are not bell to bell. They are not allowed in the classroom. Sometimes the teachers have to police them here and there because kids are speaking them out. But they're allowed in the hallways, in the lunchrooms, in the cafes, in the free period rooms. Thetford Academy is one of 4 schools. There's Sharon Academy, Thetford Academy, Harwood Union, is it called Harwood Union, and
Eagle Bay
District.
Academy.
Lamoille South.
And Lamoille South.
Eagle Bay Academy and Southwest Vermont Supervisory Union. Those are the schools that have the bell-to-bell policy.
So they have a policy, which means the devices, the cell phones, the personal handheld devices, the cell phones, the earbuds, the watches are put away as soon as they arrive on campus, and then they're giving them as soon as the bell rings at the end of the day. We have students here from Thetford Academy who have experienced this policy. Many were resistant to it, and many have come around to say, we want all Vermont students to be given this opportunity. And so lastly, I just want to say that this policy is low-hanging fruit for our House of Education, for our state to take on, that is an antidote to the mental health crisis that we see in our kids across our nation and across the Western world. And it is the answer to increasing our test scores. It is, and we are seeing, and the kids are reporting at Thetford Academy, an overall sense of happiness. This is the good news in a world right now of kind of some chaos. This is something that we can do to build community, to build relationships, and to increase happiness in our children's lives. And so I am so grateful that you're here. I'm so grateful for Laura's work behind this, and our team, Geraldine, and Rima, and Rebecca, and our professionals that are here, Robin, our attorneys, Charlie. I can't thank you enough for being here. So we're going to begin with.
Do you want to just announce the letter?
Well, why don't you? Yeah, this is great. So this is a letter that we that over 1,000 people signed in our state. It's a letter of community support for this bill, which is now on the wall of the House Education Committee. It's H54. And we're asking for public testimony to be taken up in the House Education. And over 1,000 people, 1,032 people in our state have signed this letter of community support. We believe that there is a silent majority of parents, administrators, school board members, grandparents, concerned citizens who want this bill passed. And it is like many things. It's the sort of the vocal majority that we don't want to disappoint and we don't want to hurt. So we're sort of listening to, but we have got to listen to the thousands of people in our state who want this bill passed. So we presented this bill to the governor today. I think some of the students did, and also to any key representatives. So this is also something that is proof that our people in our state want this bill passed.
Where can people find that and sign?
We have a link online we can give you so that you can.
We have a website that our stalwart Liza created. She's in Spain, so she couldn't be here today. but there is a website, VT, Vermont, I think it's VT,
Phone Free
Schools, VT.com, and you will see a video. It's a 14-minute video. It is the voices of Thetford Academy students speaking out and saying, we want all kids to have this opportunity. It's their voices. They answer many of the questions that people have about how do you communicate with a parent? What was this like before you had access in the hallways but not in the classrooms? Which policy do you prefer? And you will hear a resounding, we are happier, our grades are going up, and we want every kid in our state to have this. So that is on the website too. It's 14 minutes, and I highly recommend everyone share it in our state.
Will we play that video today, or is that?
We could, if there is some time, we could absolutely play that, Oliver, yes. So with that said, I want to just bring forward Ben Clark. Thank you, Ben, so much for being here today. And if you can sit in the chair right here to offer your testimony, just so the news can also hear you and see you.
Well, first of all, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak today. My name again is Benjamin Clark, and I live in Moortown, Vermont. I'm here today with my son, William Clark. Before I begin, I want to just say that, Robin, I didn't realize that you were a pastor. My mother actually was a pastor in Vermont, is now retired, and actually my son's mother is a pastor. But also, it's a moral issue, isn't it? And education also runs very deep in my family. It's shaped my life and generations before me. I come before you today as a member of the Harwood Unified School District School Board, as a special education teacher in the South Burlington School District. And in both school districts, I've seen firsthand how limited funds, stretched building by building, have transformed into pathways for our students to achieve futures even brighter than those we once knew. I'm not here to talk about school funding or to scrutinize how we get there. I see every legislature here in Montpelier as a hero, each one juggling despite impossible challenges and differing viewpoints. They're finding ways to reach compromise for the good of Vermont. After all, every single one was once a student, spending way too much time on the playground, laughing too hard at lunch, and cherishing moments of triumph and trial alike. Those memories are what's binding us together. Take a moment to remember your own childhoods. Noisy hallways, bursting with laughter, bustling cafeterias where every seat was a stage for impromptu performances, afternoons on the ball fields, in the woods, or on the playground, each moment alive with energy and possibility. Back then, the soundtrack of our lives was vibrant with the hum of friendship and adventure. And today, many of those lively sounds have given way to silence of personal devices and the constant buzz of notifications. A change that has, in many ways, replaced genuine connection with anxiety and distraction. Technology has reshaped how we live, work, and learn, but not always for the better. When I first arrived in Vermont in 2008, I proudly carried one of the first cell phones that doubled as a computer, the iPhone 2. I was always connected, juggling work emails and texts like a circus performer with flaming pineapples, sometimes missing the chance for a genuine conversation or interaction with my students. While our classrooms today benefit from the state-of-the-art tools, personal devices too often diverts attention from essential human connections that drive learning. A statewide ban on cell phones during school hours would establish clear, uniform framework across our schools. This isn't about stripping away valuable tools. It's about restoring focus on the face-to-face interactions that form the heart of our education. Schools that have embraced a cell phone-free environment report renewed student engagement and stronger sense of community. A uniform policy relives our educators from making endless individualized decisions about device use, allowing them to concentrate on teaching, on mentoring, on inspiring our students. Now, some might worry that a statewide, some might worry that a statewide standard limits local flexibility. But right now, schools are dealing with a patchwork of policies placing extra burden on teachers, on administrators. A clear-wide state policy that is setting up this impossible balancing act that ensures that every student has the same opportunity to learn in a distraction-free environment is the goal. I urge you, our dedicated policymakers, to support this statewide cell phone ban. Let's reclaim the vibrant energy of our school hallways and create classrooms where relationships, creativity, and focus come first. Together, we can pave the way for every child to thrive without the consent of others at the tech industry or at the cell phone companies to pull away our students to their attention to the screen. Let us not pass the buck to the local education rule makers on the front lines who already have other priorities, so many of them, like how to do more with less. Instead, let's work together to try to create an environment, an educational environment, that prioritizes the well-being and future of every child in Vermont, from north to south. Let's do what's right for Vermont's students. Lead boldly instead of trying to always play catch up. Be their hero. Thank you.
And now, thank you so much, Ben. And we're going to hear from Rima Carlson, who is part of our team. She's a parent and a family physician at Montpelier Integrative Family Medicine.
Thank you for listening this morning. I've been a family medicine physician in Montpelier for the past 15 years, practicing medicine, seeing children and adolescents at the Montpelier Integrative Family Health Center at the Roundabout here in Montpelier. I have many patients that I've cared for since birth. It's a privilege to be part of their care and development. Celebrating with parents the birth of their first child, monitoring weight gain and in the early weeks, checking on developmental milestones in the toddler years, celebrating first words, first steps, preparing for kindergarten, encouraging safety, screening for learning challenges, and supporting families through illnesses. It's a big responsibility to shoulder, guiding these youth to adulthood, and I don't take it lightly. What I've witnessed in the years that I've been in practice is a gradual increase in mood and attention disorders like depression and anxiety. and ADHD. Beginning just before COVID, this occurred in most adolescents or many adolescents, and now is progressing so that children as young as age 5 are complaining of suicidal thoughts. When I first started practice 20 years ago, I never prescribed antidepressants or ADHD medicines to adolescents. That job was for a pediatrician or a pediatric psychiatrist. Today, it's not uncommon to prescribe Prozac to adolescents or Ritalin to middle schoolers. In fact, on Monday in the office, I saw a UVM college student who needed an additional antidepressant because the one she was taking wasn't enough. I received some training around psychiatric medication in children and adolescents, but quickly I've realized it is not enough for the current mental health crisis we're facing. And I've pursued professional development in this area to expand my knowledge to help my patients. In my practice, I ask all young people aged 5 to 20 how many hours a day they spend on screens. I have observed that an increase in antidepressants and ADHD med use in the youth of my practice has correlated directly with the increase in screen time and phone use, and this is consistent with national trends. The etiology of youth mental health decline is, of course, multifactorial, but we cannot ignore my observations and the studies that have shown a correlation. This should be a call to action. Our children are hurting. Creating a phone-free environment in school is a perfect place to start. My experience does not end as a physician. I am a mother of 2 adolescent girls. Again, I feel privileged to be guiding these 2 young women to adulthood. My husband and I were aware of the dangers of screens, and we encouraged our girls to be involved with sports, school, friends, church, family. So phones and screens really had no place in their lives. In fact, one of my daughter's dance teachers is here today. While we did not provide our young girls with phones, we gradually lost control in middle school because other kids had phones and used them in school. They were allowed to use them. We followed the guidelines and did not allow them to have a phone until high school. But my 11-year-old opened a Snapchat at school with her friend's phone. I found out that she had because one of my coworkers had become her friend, and she mentioned this to me. It's illegal to have a Snapchat account until you're 13. Once in high school, it was a constant battle at home to make sure phones didn't end up in the bedrooms or were being used past 9 p.m. I realized the addictive pull of these devices when we took my daughter's phone away for 24 hours because she had violated the rule of no phones in the bedroom overnight for several evenings. There was terror in her eyes. She screamed at us, and the calm, easygoing 14-year-old girl we knew punched a window in our back door. She needed 7 stitches. I was beside myself. Before punching the window, she screamed, "How am I supposed to stay connected?" My girls don't know middle school or high school without phones being present in the classroom. Today, surveys show 97% of teens have phones and report using them during the school day. 35% report cheating using their phone in school. Nearly 60% of students said that they spent more than 10% of class time on their phones. More than 50% of kids get 237 notifications a day, while some receive as many as 4,500 every day, and about 23% of these notifications occur during school hours. Teens spend nearly 5 hours a day on social media apps, and each additional hour of screen time increases the odds of suicidal behavior. More than 3 hours a day on social media doubles the risk of poor mental health, including experiencing symptoms of depression and anxiety. Phones prevent face-to-face communication. Research suggests face-to-face interactions are linked to better mental health. Rates of school loneliness have doubled since 2012. Since 2010, young people have experienced 134% increases in anxiety and 106% increases in depression. 41% of teens with the highest social media use rate their overall mental health as poor or very poor. 22% of high school students have seriously considered suicide in the past year. 10% have admitted attempting suicide in the past year. 95% of teachers say anxiety and depression is a problem in schools K through 12. 72% of high school teachers report cell phones are a major distraction in classrooms. Students not using their phones during class wrote down 60% more information and also scored a full letter grade and a half higher on multiple choice tests. Youth reporting loneliness are more likely to drop out of school by the age of 16. 87% of teachers said bullying is a problem in schools K through 12, and 34% of middle school teachers call bullying a major problem. The American Academy of Children and Adolescent Psychiatry recommends that age 2 to 5-year-olds have less than an hour a day of screen time with only educational content. And then they recommend age 6 to 15, less than 2 hours a day on screens with some supervised recreational content, stressing healthy habits. Brain science and research experts demonstrate that adolescent brains cannot manage the addictive pull of cell phones and social media. Cell phones and games that young people spend time on were deliberately designed to be addictive. Further studies have shown that once youth are introduced to addictive things to their developing brain, it's much more likely that that brain is to develop lifelong addictions to other things. Studies have shown that phone use in children and adolescents are linked with less sleep, less exercise, and more time spent inside. They also foster asynchronous interactions, leading to greater levels of anxiety, loneliness, depression. In-person, face-to-face socialization with other students, teachers, and trusted adults at school forms a far stronger connection and supports the development of their healthier social and emotional skills. Studies have shown that cell phone use negatively impacts social interactions and normal adolescent social development in school. An international study shows the presence of cell phones nearby, like a backpack, causes students to be distracted from academic work and decrease cognitive capacity. Finally, in July 2024, JAMA, a well-reputable journal, published a randomized controlled trial showing that even short-term reduction in phone use and social media positively affected children and adolescents' psychological symptoms. Cell phone and social media exist in our lives as tools, and I would encourage you to support a phone-free bill to give your youth the opportunity to experience school without distractions and develop into our future leaders, parents, teachers, doctors, and neighbors. Thank you.
I'm going to call forward Kelly Zafir. Is that correct, Kelly? Parents and English as a second language instructor for Lamoille South Supervisory Union. And yeah, so thank you for being here, Kelly.
You're welcome. I'm not as elegantly planned as the other two. I came here as an ESL teacher, multilingual learner, so I work with all the students in our school district who don't speak English at home. And there is, I am now, and I'm also a parent, and I am fortunate to be in a phone-free school. And so I'll talk about that a little bit as a parent. But students, when learning language, come to a classroom not knowing what is being said, how to read the room, and the first thing that a student will do will be to start discerning things that are happening around them. Oh, okay, they said that because of that. Oh, that's how they, and so with a language learner, the brain actually needs to be part of the scene. It needs to be part of the classroom and seeing what's going around. And with the phone, I've had, because prior we had phones, I saw my students frantically switching through their phone looking for, oh, how do I say that in English? How do I do that? How do I do that? And it's hard as a multilingual teacher noticing that what you need to learn is actually up here. It's not down here. And so I spent a lot of time having them put it away and teach them that what they need to do is ask themselves the right questions and discern the language. So if you have a phone, the phone does that all for you. And language learning happens when you are able to discern what is being said. And it sticks, and the cognitive load is much better for an EL student if they're able to make sense of what's happening around them without the help of a tool such as their phone or their Google. Another place that I see it for my language learners is at lunch or in social times, because it's very hard to be in a space where you're the only person who speaks the language. And so when you're sitting at lunch and everyone around you is speaking English and no one has the tool to ask you how you are or have those conversations, which is really difficult, all of my students end up in their culture. They think they're connecting to their culture through this device. But what it's really doing is allowing them to stay in this, it's giving them this one view of the world, and it's sending a signal to everyone else that I'm not able to talk, I'm not available. And language learning happens through BICS. It's called your BICS, your basic intercommunication skills. And once an EL student starts to really learn how to communicate at lunch and on the playground and in all the areas where I would rather them not on their phones. Once they start to be able to be in a space with people and not have a phone, their language starts to blossom, right? They start to use this language, and then that transfers into the classroom. They are able to ask questions. They're starting to play on the playground. And with the device, I've noticed that there's no room for that. There's no time. So it's really detrimental to an ESL student's language development and social development in schools. And some teachers might say that, but it's really, really helpful for me to help them, like I need them to translate this, or it'd be really great if they could just do that on the fly. And I, as a teacher in this profession for 20 years, I would really implore the teacher to find another tool to step outside of their uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to be the teacher sometimes, to have to figure out how to get something through to someone. So we, as the educator, sometimes goes right to the phone. And so it's an opportunity for the educator to step outside of that and find another tool. And when you find another tool to communicate with an EL student, then you're able to connect and make connections. And so that's, again, how ESL kids learn language, through connection. And a phone cuts that off right away. And then as a parent, I got my daughter got in the car. She's in 8th grade. We were wait till 8. She got in the car a couple days ago with her friends. Everybody's on vacation. And the first thing that came out of their mouths was, "Where is she? She's where? Oh, wait, I'm not there." And my daughter has been asking me for social media. And we got home last night and I was like, no. I think it's our job as educators and as a parent to help this bill pass, because kids are not ready. I know what's best, and I said to my daughter, I'm giving you your youth. Your youth is so much more important than what's happening on these phones. And I don't want you're with 4 people right now, 4 friends right now, and you're all worried about what's happening over there, and it just breaks my heart. So I really, really think that a bill like this is taking is giving ease to raising our children and them not having to think about this kind of stuff. Anyway.
Kelly, thank you very much. I hadn't thought about our ESL students, so thank you for speaking to that. We're going to have George Butt Vanna. He's a medical doctor, a general pediatrician, speak, adult psychiatrist, and child psychiatrist in Vermont. So welcome, Bud. Thank you so much. And if you can have a seat here. The reason why we're sitting in sort of this awkward spot is because the news is here. And we want to make sure to amplify these voices and to get them out there. And so thank you for your patience with this sort of different setup. And then after Bud speaks, we're going to have some students from Thetford Academy speaking, beginning with Isaac Yukika.
Great. Thanks. And my voice is a little hoarse, so hopefully this amplifies it enough where everybody can hear it. So I'm Dr. Bud, officially George Vanna. I'm a general pediatrician, adult psychiatrist, child psychiatrist. I live in Jericho, Vermont. And I've been worried about kids' exposure to social media and sort of unhindered smartphone use for a while, sort of from a child protection and sort of worst case scenario children's mental health sort of side of things. And so as a child psychiatrist, I see children who really are suffering from depression, from suicidal ideation, from other problems that in some cases might have been preventable. And what I worry about most is and what is so difficult for me as a child psychiatrist and pediatrician to really treat and work on individually is cyberbullying and bullying in general. And we know that the rates of cyberbullying and bullying in general have just really climbed sort of exponentially as smartphone penetration, smartphone use, social media use has increased with youth. And so there's not like a therapy or a medication that I can prescribe when someone is being cyberbullied, and really it's almost too late to change that really sort of terrible outcome if we aren't able to sort of intervene earlier. What I'm optimistic about is how impressive sort of data coming out of research in Scandinavian countries and some even data I think that's coming out of Vermont for phones-free schools at how robust a prevention method it is when it comes to cyberbullying. That we really see such a dramatic decrease in cyberbullying when phones are put away, when they're not accessible, when people are not engaging in social media or other things for that sort of safe period of time, safe space at school. And that can be really challenging when, social media turns everything into sort of a 24/7 cycle for people. Having that safe space at school, I anecdotally hear from patients is so powerful and important. And I think the data is sort of really bearing that out. So what I worry about and sort of the urgency that I feel for needing to get this bill heard and get this bill passed this year is related to probably the media in this room, that I don't want to see a front page headline about someone who was cyberbullied who then died by suicide, because I think that means that we were too late. And again, I'm really hopeful by the energy in this room, hopeful by the energy, in the State House. I think there are so many people who see this as sort of a no-brainer. But I think it is urgent because, there are not a lot of things that I can do, or suggest that we do collectively that are going to have such a robust impact on suicidal ideation, on the kind of stress that it's so difficult to treat as a general pediatrician, as a child psychiatrist, as an adult psychiatrist. And so I'm really hopeful, again, that this energy is here and that we can get this bill heard and hopefully passed. Thanks for this time.
And so now we're going to hear from our Thetford Academy students. Isaac Yukika prepared something more formal. And then for the students who would like to speak, you can just raise your hand and take a seat and just speak, you don't have to speak as long as Isaac, because he's I instructed him to sort of answer he says in the video in which I highly recommend we share that as much as we can, the Thetford Academy video that's on the website, it's also on YouTube. Isaac said he does not see any losses in passing this bill, only gains. And so I asked him to speak to that a little bit more deeply, and also to rebut some of the major sort of, what do we say, the major arguments against passing this bill. So he will speak to those arguments. So thank you, Isaac.
Great, thank you, Robin. So, as Robin said, I'm Isaac Ukika. I'm a Thetford Academy student where, of course, we do have an anti-phone policy. And so, and I'm going to speak to you a little bit about the arguments against the phone policy. So, when I was asked about how I felt about the cell phone ban at school, Thetford Academy, my feelings were very clear. I think the ban is one of the best things our administration could have done for the student body, and there is zero loss but enormous gain to be had from banning cell phones. So at our school, we previously left it up to teachers to decide whether or not phones were allowed in class. I think that this is the primary compromise offered in favor of banning phones outright, but I have found that it led to a lot of conflict between students and teachers. Students frequently violated this policy, for one thing, disrupting class by posing distraction and derailing our teachers' ability to foster engagement. The mere presence of phones always threatens to bleed into class time. I also believe that a perfectly successful policy that keeps phones out of class time is just simply not enough. Phones are just as damaging in social environments like lunch as they are in class. This time is crucial, like absolutely crucial in my experience and everyone's experience, for students to build connections, and it often goes to waste. Instead of talking with the people around them, students choose to text others, scroll on social media, or play video games. It's easier to use your phone than to face real social interactions, but braving this challenge leads to the most fruitful of high school experiences. I have heard many potential circumstances under which students may need access to their phones. These come largely from adults who are speaking against this bill, or students lobbying to use their phones in class, or from those who want to justify their rampant phone use to themselves, or adults, or peers. I have never found any of these arguments to be legitimate, and they continue not to hold up under scrutiny. Some students have part-time jobs and may be care providers for siblings. Support from peers and adults outside of the specific school community is important to some students, and VT alerts may be necessary to pose alternate routes home in case of an emergency. Students also may need to be in communication with their parents about after-school plans, and they can report incidents or safety concerns via their phones. Concerning these arguments, I greatly appreciate the focus on the well-being of students, their safety and ability to fulfill their personal and familiar responsibilities as best as they can. I believe that concerns of this nature are often touted as the primary reasons to allow cell phones in schools. However, I don't think that phones are necessary at all to handle any of these situations. Important updates and concerns that an employer, friend, or family member needs to send to a student can be called into the office or sent by email if less urgent. The same goes for alerts concerning weather or accidents on the road. This communication can be handled by the school. I think it is widely agreed upon that phones should not be present in class already, so students will only be able to receive these messages in transition periods or study hall or lunch. This is a rather small amount of time when looking at the whole school day. Meanwhile, any message sent to the office would be directly related to the student. So realistically, it would actually be easier for someone to reach a student by calling into the office than by calling or texting them directly, assuming that their phones aren't out in class. Likewise, any serious incidents or safety concerns that a student must report can be given to a trusting teacher or administrator instantly without the use of the student's phone. It is also worth noting that if someone or something isn't worth calling into the office, then the student can also just learn about it at the end of the day when they receive their phone back. In many cases, this gives completely ample time to change after-school plans or whatever else is necessary. Now, what about students who receive support from peers and adults outside of our learning community, given school? I recognize that many students unfortunately don't have strong connections within their own school. Rather, a large portion of this group may rely on connections that they have made outside of their own school community. However, I think that by no means are cell phones necessary to maintain this support. I recently confronted a fellow student who was complaining about the cell phone ban at Thetford Academy. She said that she doesn't like a lot of the people at our school and that she would rather text her friends who are elsewhere. And I was very upset by this because for our own sake and the sake of others, we all need to make an effort to be present in our own school environment, as hard as it can be. It is very challenging and intimidating to make new friends or to invest in a community that you're not particularly interested in. I fully understand the impulse to hide away in your phone instead of being around with people who are immediately present. I have engaged in that many, many times myself. It's a really hard habit to break. However, there is more than enough time to foster and enjoy the connections you have outside of school when you are literally outside of school. I have found that the happiest people in my life always make an effort to get to know the people around them, regardless of any superficial qualities that they might find distasteful that might lead them to seek support elsewhere. Moving on to the importance of tech in classrooms, I have truly never understood this argument, especially in regards to phones. Adults and classmates have suggested that students may need to take pictures of slides that feature important content or homework assignments and instructions. However, the teacher could very easily just send these to the student. I have on many occasions taken such pictures myself, and I guarantee not once have I ever looked at them afterwards. I always refer to the content that the teacher has sent out to class, which they never fail to do, especially given that a lot of students may not have their phones or don't bother to take pictures, so it's easier for everyone if the teacher handles that communication themselves. I have also heard the argument that teachers may ask students to use their phone camera in art class or photography, or perhaps to gather assessment feedback on an online poll, or for scheduling theater rehearsals, etc. All of these examples fall completely flat. Photography class does not typically, in my experience, rely on students use their own phones for work. Art teachers can take pictures of student work themselves and send them out to students. A poll or a feedback form can very easily be given on paper, and an app for rehearsal scheduling can very easily used outside of school, even though it's not necessary in the first place, in my opinion. But it also won't be used in class in the first place, so it's pretty irrelevant. And here's why all these examples are irrelevant to the phone debate. Because each one refers to a specific hypothetical situation that shoehorns in unnecessary phone use. The need for phones is completely manufactured. Could all these things easily happen? Yes, absolutely. When phones are present in an academic setting, people will occasionally implement them in ways that may be convenient. However, none of these examples touch on actual issues that would necessitate the presence of phones. As a student, it takes about 10 seconds to think of a phone-free alternative to pretty much any proposed issue. Throughout each instance, the premise remains the same. Phones offer an occasional and minuscule luxury or convenience throughout the school day, but any communication or task of actual importance can be very easily tackled without them. Are they worth the complete detriment they pose to the social environment? No. Are they worth feeding the crippling social media addiction that already afflicts countless teenagers, including myself? No. Are they worth the grief that they cause teachers? No. They are not worth any of these things. Allowing cell phone use in school does not promote digital literacy. It does not teach students how to handle their phones. It just increases the already out of control number of hours that teenagers spend on screens throughout the day and furthers their social media addiction. It severely damages the interactions they have on a daily basis. I recall, as a freshman, choosing to eat downstairs on the floor outside the gym because in the actual cafeteria, all of my friends played Clash Royale on their phones instead of talking. It was difficult to even make friends in the first place, as I transferred into Thetford Academy, when everyone around me spent a large portion of lunch buried in their devices. It was even harder because I had the opportunity to do the same instead of branch out. When I got campus privileges, I would often go home for lunch instead of staying at school because all anyone was doing was scrolling Instagram. There was nothing worth to be had for me staying. It was really crushing to see the presence of these devices prey on my opportunity to create and foster some of the most formative relationships in my life. It is also so hard to get work done when I can so easily justify pulling out my phone for a quick check that turns into an hour-long time suck. This is why it's an urgent issue, is because this is a really valuable time that is being lost to cell phones. This happens inside and outside of school, but it doesn't have to. Now lunchtimes are lively and full of conversation, that we have a no phone policy, and I no longer see regular arguments in class wherein students try to explain why they should be allowed to have their phones out. I no longer see exasperated teachers explaining for the upteenth time that cell phones have to stay away. I no longer see hours upon hours of study hall time spent completely wasted on phones. And I certainly don't see any of the safety or educational concerns about the lack of phones coming to fruition. All that I see is a happier, more efficient, and more socially capable student body on campus. And now that students spend the entire day without their phones, they begin to rely on it less, also myself included. This is how we become better at managing our phone use. This is how we become more responsible social media users, and this is how we break our addictions and learn to focus on each other rather than an endless stream of garbage that is being mainlined to our brains through our cell phones. And as I said when interviewed on the subject, banning cell phones has no legitimate drawbacks. This bill is all gain, no loss.
Mr. Dingers, you can come forward.
Hello, my name is Agnes Sterninger and I'm 13 years old. I'm here today to testify for phone and social media free schools in Vermont. Because right now in schools across the state, any student carrying a phone on their person may at any time be cyberbullied, harassed on social media, or told to kill themselves, to name a few things. This is unacceptable, and if we value the health, well-being, and the lives of children, it needs to be prevented. The fact is that any child with a cell phone can easily access lethal online harms, such as instructions and challenges for how to slice up your arms and choke yourself into unconsciousness, as well as vicious bullying, being tricked into deadly and even illicit drug use, and suicide content. The child does not have the control to block these things. Their not fully matured brains can't resist the algorithms that are built into content feed, purposefully put in place by the tech industry to lure the mind down rabbit holes of obsessive and harmful usage. Even the adult brain is no match for the tireless distraction of screens alone, not to mention addictive design. It has been proven that banning cell phones for the class time only is not as effective as getting rid of them for the entirety of the school day. And if time at school is the only time that the safety of children from online harms can be ensured, then students should be given that right to a safe and supportive school environment. But while one child could go home tonight and commit suicide because of what they accessed on social media at school, there is still much work to be done. And that's why it's so vital that this bill gets passed now. We can't afford to wait another year with a youth mental health crisis and suicide being the second leading cause of death in minors. Implementing this policy is the change that needs to happen. It's the change that we hope may reverse any further escalation of this major problem. I speak on the behalf of all the kids who have been harmed or who are no longer here with us today because of their online encounters, and whose voices and stories have been drowned out by industry's relentless lobbying and marketing. The physical and mental health and the lives of my generation depends on the passing of this bill. So please, if you care, if you feel any regret as another human being upon hearing these words, vote yes to pass H54S21. Thank you.
I want to give any Thetford Academy students just like 2 minutes if you wanted to speak for 2 minutes, and then we're going to go with Adam Sargent, who has an important word, and then we can open it up if there's time left. So are there any Thetford Academy students who want to speak to a specific point? How do you navigate the awkward moments? What was it like at first? What about or even just if someone has a question that's on your mind that they want to ask the students, now you could just do that, and we'll just take a few minutes for that. Are there any adults who would like to put forward, or Hardy, did you have something you wanted to say?
Oh, well.
Or Kid? Yeah, Hardy?
Oh yeah, I can say something.
Yeah.
I can speak to my observations about after school and like outside of school.
Yes, can you
how
sit
this
up here
policy-
quickly?
Yeah, I can do that.
This is,
Yeah.
so Hardy is going to speak to what we are seeing in Thetford Academy is that students are, this cell phone policy is changing their behavior after school. So they are actually using their devices less and connecting with friends, playing, and Hardy's going to speak to that point.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, it's literally just, go.
Yeah, no.
You got this, Hardy.
Yeah, okay. So my name is Hardy Payson, as Roman just said. I'm a student at Thetford Academy, and I've been living through this phone-free policy. And I'd just like to speak on my observations about it. And yeah, just like pretty casual, brief. So after my own school went phone-free, I found that as I'm reaching for my phone less in class, I'm really doing the same at home. After school, instead of scrolling on Instagram like I used to, I'll take the time to read a book, or even learn the guitar. I'm not very good at it yet, but I'm really enjoying it. Instead of lounging around my room, I go out with my friends, I go hiking, or rock climbing, really whatever. I've noticed that habits that you build up in the school day really undoubtedly are reflected onto your personal time outside and after school. And that is, in many senses, the purpose of an education, to foster habits that will be useful outside of school and later in life. Since our school went phone free, I think I've really been happier. less distracted, and I feel like I really have the time to do what I want to do, you know. And as a community member and a soon-to-be Vermont taxpayer, I think we should really offer the same opportunities to future students, so they can really engage in their communities and, you know, the world around them and stuff like that. Yeah, that's all I have to say. Listen, thank you.
Just last call for any Thetford Academy.
Well, there are
Eliza?
many of them.
I'm Elijah Renner from Thetford Academy. Before I was at Thetford Academy, I went to Orange Center School. It was a middle school with 80 kids, and I was probably a grade or two behind when I entered high school, and I didn't really know, I didn't have many things I was very passionate about. And when I got to high school, I was really happy to explore things and find things that I was really passionate about. And I fear that if you allow people to have phones in school, they'll get absorbed into the phone, and as I've felt at times, just sort of lose sight of things that they want to focus on and really dive into and be passionate about. And I fear that not passing this bill will actually prevent people from discovering things that they're really passionate about, and you know, that can make them much happier. I find that, you know, when I'm doing things that I actually enjoy and things that I want to see happen, and, you know, working on a project or trying to get something done, it's just really motivating, and it just makes me happy and makes me want to get up in the morning. And I think a lot of kids don't really feel that way right now. Some kids, definitely in my school, probably, like, you know, not, they kind of don't have a vision of what they want to do. They kind of feel lost. I think that's many kids all across the country, and I think by, you know, taking away that distraction in school, you can have kids really discover things that they like and talk about those things with other people. And yeah, this bill is definitely low-hanging fruit, so I'd encourage you to pass it for people like me, so, you know, people can discover things that they like, and that's really powerful. So yeah, thank you.
Kit, you wanted to say a word, and then we're going to have Adam
Just a
come
quick
forward?
word, it's going to be brief.
Very brief, yep.
Okay. Hello, I am Kit Payson, and I go to Thetford Academy. I don't have a phone at Thetford Academy, so I've lived my entire life, you know, without, you know, social media and interacting through online stuff. So it's weird to see people like get used to what I've just lived with my entire life. And now I feel more connected to people now that people are less engulfed in their phones, and I feel like I can have a conversation without needing the phone as like a social lubricant, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So that is all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you. And Adam is a high school social studies teacher at Harwood Union, the parent of two in Montpelier. And Harwood Union is one of the 4 schools in our state who have a bell-to-bell policy. So thank you, Adam.
Yeah. So I've been teaching for 21 years, and I've got to say that this change for Harwood to go cell phone free this year is the most impactful decision I've seen in my teaching career. The classroom environment, just a few observations, is so much better. We're just more connected. I haven't seen a single phone in my classroom this whole year, which is incredible. And I did hear a notification go off once. But the thing that's really, for me as a teacher, I try to create the highest quality environment for my students, and I feel like phones were just interfering with that environment. And I found myself this fall like enjoying teaching more. I think it's because I'm instead of being the cell phone police, I'm like more present, and I'm just able to just attend to like delivering the best quality lesson that I can. Outside of the classroom, when I walk around the school, in the hallway, students' heads are up saying hi. In previous years, I had students looking at their phones doing kind of the zombie walk. And there were so many missed opportunities to have conversations with students. Just last week, before vacation, I was standing in the lunch line getting my lunch, and I was talking to a student who I know struggled with anxiety, and we had a nice conversation. And I just wonder how that would have gone if she had had access to her phone. She might have been on her phone the whole time. Other colleagues have said that if we were to go to having cell phones again, or like have a different policy, that they think they might not continue teaching. And I think I feel the same too, that I don't think I could go back. Lastly, there's a senior cafe in our school where the seniors are allowed during uptime to go and hang out. And I've witnessed a lot of cool things happening. And every time I go by, I always am looking to see what they're up to. I've heard students read their written work out loud to each other. I've seen students playing board games and working on puzzles. I've heard them having debates. It's in previous years I saw a lot of screen behavior, a lot of cell phone staring at the cell phones and not interacting with each other. So I just feel like we are as a community more connected, and I think all Vermont students deserve that opportunity, because school is a special environment that you only have for a certain amount of years, and it's really important to have that be the best, highest quality environment that it can be for all Vermont students. Thank you.
Someone else is going to be using this room. I know that there are many of you who could speak to this issue. So what we're going to ask, I'm making this up on the fly, is that we would like to put a video together like we did with the student voices, of the administrators' voices, of the therapist voices. So we'll be working on that next. And then we'd like to hear from you, and then we can post that on the website and we can share your voices, because our hope is that what you heard today goes and reverberates across our state and across our nation. It is the antidote to our children's mental health crisis, and it is what is going to help them to be critical thinkers and to succeed in academics. This is what we want for our kids. So thank you, students, for being here and dedicating part of your vacation.
Everybody, you can have a lunch hour now, try and meet and greet your senators and reps in the cafeteria. You can come back here for the afternoon, because the Senate and House Education will be meeting in this room, so you may be here. And then, as we said, if you're sticking around till 3, Representative Arsenault said that on the House floor, we can all go to that main room, and she will announce us in that venue.
I will proudly introduce you. Yes. Yes. And if you talk to your representatives or senators, please ask them to take it up now, not next year. This is really what it is about. The urgency is to take it up now. Okay? Thank you so much.
Thank you.